All right, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about building the ultimate blueprint for any project. The kind of solid plan that really sets you up for success right from day one. By the way, this explainer is brought to you by Oasis&Brooks, Ltd. So, let's just dive right in.
So, you know that feeling, right? A huge new initiative just lands on your desk. The goal is massive, you've got a million stakeholders, and the path forward is, well, it's pretty foggy, isn't it? It's right there, in that initial chaos, where a project either finds its footing or just stumbles before it even gets started.
I mean, think about it. You would never build a house without a detailed blueprint, would you? Of course not. You'd plan out the foundation, the layout, the materials, every single little detail. And that exact same idea applies to business projects. Before anyone writes a single line of code, before any new process gets rolled out, you absolutely need a comprehensive plan. And that's what we're calling our business analysis blueprint.
Okay, to make this all super practical, let's follow a case study. Let's meet Innovate Corp. Their goal is to build a brand new customer relationship management system, a CRM, to totally supercharge their sales. And the person who's got to make sense of this huge undertaking, that's their business analyst, Alex.
Now, here's the thing. Alex isn't just making this up as they go. The guide for this whole journey is the industry standard, the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, or what everyone calls the BABAC Guide. We're going to focus on one key part of it, business analysis planning and monitoring. This is basically the chapter that tells Alex exactly how to build that project blueprint we've been talking about.
So here's our game plan. We're going to follow Alex through 5 really crucial stages. We'll start with planning the right approach, then engaging the right people, defining the project rules, managing all that information, and finally, figuring out how to improve the whole process. All right, first up, Alex's very first task is to answer the most fundamental question of all. How are we actually going to get this work done? This is all about picking the overall methodology. Because, that one choice is going to influence every other part of the plan.
So Alex basically has 2 main paths to choose from. On one side, you've got the predictive approach, which you might know as waterfall. Just think of it like a straight line, a very step-by-step process where you define everything up front to get maximum control. Then on the other side, you've got the adaptive approach, or agile. This one's totally different. It's all about working in cycles. You build something, you get feedback, you refine it, and then you repeat. It's built to be flexible and to respond to change.
So, which way does Alex go? Well, it's not a random guess. Alex has to weigh a bunch of different factors. For example, does the project have really rigid deadlines? That might point towards a predictive approach. Or is getting constant feedback from stakeholders absolutely essential? That sounds more like an adaptive approach. What about the company itself? Innovate Corp. Do they demand super formal documents for every single phase? The answers to questions like these are what will ultimately determine the right approach for this CRM project.
Okay, so Alex has a pretty good idea of the how. The next absolutely critical step is figuring out the who. Because let's be honest, even the best methodology in the world will totally fail if you don't have the right people on board. A project's success really does live or die by the people who are involved.
And the BABAC Guide lays out a really systematic way to do this. First, Alex does what's called a stakeholder analysis, which is just a fancy way of saying they identify everyone who's going to be impacted by this change. Next, Alex figures out exactly how to work with each of those people. And finally, a communication plan gets put together. If you skip this process, it's so easy to miss key people, and that just leads to surprise objections and really expensive rework later on. And here's a great example of what that actually looks like. Alex puts together the stakeholder matrix. So you see Sarah, the head of sales, she has high influence and she's deeply impacted. So the strategy is simple. Collaborate closely with her. Then there's Tom, the IT lead. He's also got high influence, but he might not be in the weeds every day. So the goal there is to keep him satisfied. The sales team, they're the ones who will actually use this thing. So they need to be kept informed. And what about the legal department? Well, for this project, they have pretty low influence. So Alex just needs to monitor them and make sure nothing comes up.
All right, so we figured out the how and the who. Now it's time to set the rules of the road. And why is that so important? Simple. Without clear rules, you just get chaos. This whole step is about preventing that inevitable project gridlock by deciding right up front how we're going to make decisions and how we're going to handle change.
So the official term for this is business analysis governance. I know it sounds a little complicated, but don't let the name fool you. It's really just about bringing order to the chaos. It's about defining the decision-making framework. Who has the authority to approve requirements? Who gets to prioritize the work? Who signs off on any changes? It's all laid out clearly.
And the Babok Guide is super clear about this. Planning your governance approach, it's not optional. This is the specific task that determines how all the decisions and changes get managed and communicated. Getting this right from the start is what prevents all that confusion and conflict later on.
Okay, think about this. Alex is about to gather a literal mountain of information for this CRM project. We're talking requirements, interview notes, process models, the works. And without a plan, that can turn into a total mess, right? Vital details get lost, nobody knows which version is the latest. It's a nightmare. So, the fourth part of our blueprint is deciding exactly how to manage all of this information.
The key thing here is that Alex needs a system. So for this CRM project, Alex has to answer some really practical questions. Where are we going to store the requirements from the sales team? Who needs to be able to see the technical specs? Are we just going to use a simple shared drive? Or do we need a dedicated tool like Jira or Confluence? Planning this out ahead of time makes sure that crucial information is never lost and is always available for people like Sarah and Tom when they need it.
And that brings us to the final piece of the blueprint. This isn't just about planning the work, it's also about planning how to improve the work as we go. Because, let's face it, even the best plan in the world can be executed poorly. So, how does Alex actually know if the business analysis work is effective? How do they know if it's really adding value?
Well, to get a complete picture, Alex has to look at performance from two different angles. First, there are the quantitative measures. These are the hard numbers, things you can count, like the percentage of tasks that were completed on schedule. But you know what? Numbers don't tell the whole story. That's where qualitative measures come in. This is stuff like getting feedback from stakeholders like Sarah, asking, hey, were these requirements clear? That kind of feedback is just as important as how many requirements got approved. Using both makes sure the work is not just on track, but that people are actually happy with the process.
And there you have it. The blueprint is complete. By following these 5 key steps from the Babok Guide, Alex has built a truly comprehensive plan. It covers the approach, the people, the rules, the information, even the metrics for success. That initial fog we talked about, it's lifted. The path forward is finally clear. And let's be absolutely clear about something. This isn't just about creating a bunch of paperwork for the sake of it. This blueprint is the essential foundation that separates successful projects from the ones that fail. It's what ensures that the final CRM system won't just be another piece of software, but a solution that delivers real, measurable business value to Innovate Corp.
So Alex has the perfect plan. The path is clear, the stakeholders are all aligned, the rules are set, everything looks great. But what's the next big challenge? What's the one thing that, even with the best blueprint in the world, can still come along and throw this entire project completely off course? We'll get into